Hey guys, welcome back to the Flying Controller
and the Flying Texan.
And today we're going to go flying and we're going to talk about emergencies. Here we go.
AGL, crane 2.2 miles north of AFW at or below 165 feet AGL. All craft provides tower FIFR prior to departure. Advisors contact information Mike.
Mike. Well, let's do it one more time.
Information Mike, 1253 Zulu, wind 170 at Niner, visibility 13,000 scattered. Temperature 28, dew point 23, altimeter 2979er. Visual approach runway 16 left in use. Notice the airman. UAS activity in the vicinity of Texan Speedway at or below 200 feet AGL. Crane 2.2 miles north of AFW at or below 165 feet AGL. All craft provides tower FIFR prior to departure. Advisors contact information Mike.
And this is set, not using this in the box set. That's zeroed out, just a little bit below the zeros is level. RPMs are up, this will work. Check, check, check. These amps. Good, everything is looking good here. These are off. Lights, not using those. Beats cold. Primer is locked. We're gonna go mixtures rich. Valve is on both.
Oh, look
I've
at
set
that.
trim for takeoff.
Got it all on your iPad.
Yes, it's so much easier.
Aren't
so
you
we've
fancy?
verified. Alright, so we're gonna run up to a mag check. Alright, there's 17 on the board. Go left mag. Right mag. And one more on the left mag. And the right mag. Back to both. Okay, so we'll take 1-4 on departure. Losing engine on the runway, we'll shut it down, get off the runway. If we're off the runway, probably not gonna have much left, depending on where we're at, but we'll see if we can get it down and hit the brakes. If not, we gotta fill to the east and west, but I prefer the one to the east. It's a lot longer, a little more
Straight ahead.
time. We'll make a right departure out of here to the west, go over Eagle Mountain Lake, just kind of head out west of here. Weather looks good to me. I'm not seeing anything on the radar anymore, other than it's north of us, but it's still way like Graham and
Yeah, it's out of there.
yeah, so I'm not too concerned about that. Yeah, we'll go out and do some video and have a good time.
Almost got it. I don't want to break the window. Hicks traffic, Cessna 71 Echo, departing runway 14, right turn out to the west. Hicks traffic.
Six traffic,
Don't
traffic
take
up
much.
Charlie over
55.
1,600.
Looking green,
down
green,
6.
green. Good airplane, let's go flying.
Hicks traffic, Cessna 71 Echoes, right turn out to the west. Hicks. I don't even have to do anything, you pretty much trimmed it out for me.
Okay, dokie. My flight controls.
Your flight controls.
My flight controls. Climbing 2,400, still on track.
Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're climbing out. I'm with the Flying Texan here. We're going to the west. We do have traffic at our 2 o'clock and 2 miles, and that traffic is in sight. As you can see, Ethan's got goggles on, so I'm solely responsible for looking out the windows and finding traffic with the assistance of the iPad, but not relying on the iPad. Today, we're flying out to the west just for the fun of it. It's a nice, pretty morning. Gonna get some airtime in before the rain comes in later. And Ethan here is working toward his IFR rating.
Getting there, yep.
Slowly but surely, and that's fine.
Yep.
If you're not learning, then it's not working. And I'm studying very slowly and surely for my CFI, so it's good to sit over here in the right seat.
Get a little experience, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I already have plenty. Right seat time, 172s, 182s, 210s.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Yeah. My one of the first things one of my early flight instructors told me was, if you do plan on doing CFI, try to get into that right seat sooner rather than later.
Sure, makes sense, yeah.
And so I started the right seat at 60 hours.
Nice.
And I had my dad over on the left side. It took that cross country and then a couple flights after that to fully get used to it. And then all the flying I've done with Dan from taking off,
yeah. He's
had me on the right side for photo missions, so I've had to been able to fly his plane, competently. So it's good.
Nice.
Good. It's
nice.
good stuff. We're all learning in our own ways.
Sure.
So today we're going to talk about emergencies. We've kind of seen on social media a lot of emergencies going on, left and right. A couple of people on YouTube that have actually had them, and there was a guy that had a microburst the other day and had a difficult time climbing out of it, and that probably freaked him out a little bit. And then people landing on highways, losing an engine on takeoff, all kinds of fun stuff. So from a controller's perspective, an emergency doesn't throw all the rule books out the window. It does allow controllers to do a few things differently. Normally we sequence and separate on a first come first serve basis. But when an emergency happens, that rule kind of gets put aside because we need to meet the needs of that emergency. It's the same thing for a pilot. And essentially the FAR goes out the window. They need to meet the needs of that emergency, which means if they have to go down right through a TFR, they're going to do it. Safety comes to the top of that. Emergencies. Everyone loves an emergency, at least watching it. Wait till you experience it for the first time. It's not that fun. I don't know about you. The closest thing I've come close to an emergency, I think, was I've had a dual bird strike once. I had one bird hit the right wing, made a big freaking dent. I had one bird hit under the belly, almost at the same time. I probably went through a flock of them. And it was at night. I was 1,000 feet climbing on my very first long night cross-country solo when I was in commercial training. So in my immediate thought process, I thought, oh, freaking crap, I'm going to die. But then again, the airplane was still flying. So I was able to climb, and then I landed at, it was around Lufkin. I landed near Lufkin. That video is actually on my channel. You have to scroll way back. And I landed there and inspected the damage and just kind of got my bearings for a second. And took back off, went back to Sugarland, no issue. And then of course the power on stall video, that could have turned bad, but that was a power on stall that I just didn't have enough rudder in, and I used the ailerons, which is kind of stupid. Lesson learned there. And that not being able to control or get out of that spin could have been an emergency, but at the same time, not much air traffic could have done. I was at 3,500 feet. By the time I would have called them, I probably would have been on the ground if I hadn't fixed it. But from a controller's perspective, an emergency, doesn't exactly throw the book out the window, but it does let me throw most of it out the window. I mean, we still have rules that have to be followed, and we still have procedures that have to be followed for emergencies. So we can't just disregard them. However, just like a pilot, you have an emergency, you're going to meet the needs of that emergency. So whatever, you do what you can to get safely on the ground. So if an airliner had to go and do an emergency landing and they needed to get down faster than 250 knots under 10,000 feet, they could do it. A controller, if I got a pattern full of Cherokees and I got a pregnant woman coming in without any brakes, check that video out too.
Yep, I've seen that.
And in that scenario, a few of them were landing anyways, and so I had a clear path. I didn't have to do much that day, but I have had emergencies dating all the way back to when I was in the military, and working in emergency as a controller, it can get interesting very, very quickly, to say the least. My emergency story I like to talk about a lot is back in the day when I was in the military. It was about 2015. I had just got back from a deployment, and I hadn't worked airplanes in about 8 months, so I was a little rusty. And I told the people in charge, I said, hey, I kind of want to just work them by myself, get my bearings back, you know, get my confidence back. We have traffic at our 12 o'clock, about 7 miles.
Okay, 600 feet below us.
Yep, we'll watch them and turn it as necessary. Okay. Anyways, I come back from deployment, and they wanted me to watch this trainee, who I'm sure he's certified by now, but I'm like, I would rather not. I'd rather just get my own confidence back. And they're like, nope, you're watching him. And I'm like, so kid's working fine. You know, we had a few F-22s coming back, 4 or 5, and one of them decided that he was going to declare an emergency and take one of the cables on the runway. And what that means to non-military affiliated people is, you know, in a military base, sometimes there's cables on the runway, the Bach 12, Bach 14, or whatever. And it's just like the cables on a carrier. It's similar to those as it catches an airplane that maybe can't stop, maybe has a hydraulic failure issue or something, or a brake issue. So this F-22 that was in the pattern doing touch-and-goes decided that, I'm going to brake, and he broke, and he landed, and he took the cable. You know, the cables were up at all times. So, you know, they had no problem landing over them, and we had 2 runways at Tyndall, and that guy, when he took that cable, we lost a runway. So losing a runway as a controller, that can be a big thing, especially if you have a lot of airplanes on the runway. We had about 4 airplanes on that runway, and we had a few others on the inside runway, and that completely screwed him up. And I sat and I watched him tube. It was a bigger hole than I probably should have let him go, but I left it. I left it alone. While I had that emergency going on, I had to put everyone on another runway. By the time that emergency finished, I had another F-22 come in declaring an emergency. I forgot what the reason for. And there was obviously no more pattern traffic. That was a fun day. I learned a little bit that day. Over here in the civilian world, emergencies are worked a little bit different. At Meacham, you know, and at most facilities, all facilities are generally going to have procedures for emergencies. So, and at Meacham, you're considered an alert 1, which we put all the trucks, we let the fire department know, like, hey, this is possible, something may be coming, you know, get your stuff on maybe. I don't know what they do for an alert 1, but alert 1 is just, hey, just be ready. Alert 2 is they have declared, or I have declared for them as a controller. I can declare for you. I can declare for you, you can declare for yourself. And yeah, so I can hear shakiness in your voice, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and declare for you. You know, especially if you sound unsure about what you're doing, unsure about landing. When the pregnant lady came in, she didn't say the words declare or emergency. She just said, I lost my brakes, and you know, the rest is history. So we went ahead and declared for her in that case. So an alert 2 actually will get the fire trucks out, and it'll get people a little bit more on standby. So moving from that, the next thing I kind of want to talk about is what exactly is an emergency to a certain person. So I'm about 400 hours for a pilot. I've been a controller longer, and some things may or may not be an emergency. How many hours do you have?
130.
All right, so a little bit less. Some things. All right, so we'll run through a small list of whatever I can think of. Where's your hops time?
We use a tac time.
Well, fine.
Yeah.
Aren't you cool? Oh, you even got light gun signals over there. Ain't that cute?
We got this, yeah.
Wow, we're doing 64 over the ground.
Yep, we are scooting.
That's fine.
Build time, right?
So, 130-hour pilot and almost 400 hours, 10 years of experience, 130 hours. Okay, so I'm going to throw something out there, and you tell me if you think it's an emergency or not.
Okay.
And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that you're right out here in the middle of the country, you know, going that way. There's fields everywhere.
Yep.
And life's good. So let's assume you're here right now, and let's assume you're under the foggles, and I won't actually do it. Let's assume your engine fails right now. I'm not a CFI, by the way, so don't take any of this as instruction. I'm working on it.
If I'm under the foggles, I'm going to pull them off. If we're simulated, I'm just going to pull foggles off. I'm going to look for, like I said, we're out in the middle of nowhere, so I'm going to look for a field. There's fields everywhere. I'm going to pick a field, and then we're going to run through our emergency procedures checklist.
Let's assume that this actually happened right now. You tell me what you would do. Is it an emergency? Are you going to call Mayday or anything on frequency? Are you going to call controllers? Is it an emergency in general to you?
To me, yes. Losing an engine, for me, they're not going to give it to you all the time. Anytime I leave the field and I'm going to go on a cross country, I'll request blackballing, whether I get it or not. That's up to them. But I'll always monitor the frequency. If I lose an engine, then my first thing to do is I'm going to fly the airplane. That's the first thing you do is fly the airplane. I'm going to make sure that I've got, I'm going to look on ForeFlight. If, we're sitting here, is there an airport in sight? If not, I usually have the closest to here. It'll say, you're closest to this 1.9 miles northwest or, 5 miles southeast, whatever. I'm going to look at this to see if there's anything close within gliding distance. If not, then we're going to pick a field. Then I will call up and I will block 7700 and I'll try to pull up on, if I'm with center, departure, whoever, and I've already got a code, I'm already talking to somebody. If I'm out here not talking to anybody, then I'm going to squawk and I'm going to declare an emergency.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
So that's an emergency. So as a controller, if you were anywhere near my airspace, or if, I'm not a center controller, that's where we'd be out in center's airspace right about now. If you told center that you lost an engine, that's an emergency. I would assume that that'd be an emergency for them because you're setting down on not an airport or a runway. So what they would do is same thing. They'd follow through all their checklist or whatever, give you any kind of verbal assistance that they can because they're not flying the airplane, you are.
Right.
And dispatch police, whoever. If there's another airplane out here or anywhere near us, they'll ask those guys, hey, can you go and,
kind of follow
them or relay something or whatever. Which is another thing to consider. If you're out here flying, if we're out here flying right now and ATC tells us, hey, we just had this go on about, just north of you. Can you just look? We're just, he's time building, I'm time building. We're making fun videos. Yeah, why the heck not? Go help somebody out. So yeah, that'd be an emergency. All right, so let's see. A brake failure. Would that be an emergency to you?
Not necessarily, because in that same instance, I can go to a field that has a big enough runway and short field it how she did it, and if we need to S-turn, slow down, to me, no. To me, that wouldn't be an emergency.
Okay. If I was controlling you, it would be, and most controllers would hear brake failure. Brake failure means you can't stop.
Sure.
What if you don't land on the approach in like you need to?
Now, I'm not saying that I would not let someone know. I'm always going to tell whoever I'm talking to, hey, I've got a brake failure. I personally wouldn't declare it, because I feel that if I had a runway long enough and wide enough, I would be able to safely get the airplane down and stopped.
Okay.
But if a controller declared it for me, then I'm not going to argue with anybody, obviously. So.
All right. How about an electrical failure? All your electricity goes out right now.
Technically, we can fly an airplane without talking to anybody. So if I have an electrical failure, I'm going to troubleshoot. I'm going to check, is there any circuit breakers that's popped? What's our checklist for an electrical failure? If everything fails and we have to shut the panel off if we get smoke in the cockpit, anything comes through from this failure, I have a handheld in the back. So it does have a adapter that you can unplug your headset from the panel, and you can plug in your headset to the handheld, and you can communicate with ATC. And I haven't used it that far out, but I have heard people talk, 30 miles out, depending on what your altitude is, you could talk to somebody.
Okay. Yeah, I have one of those too. And you just mentioned something else. Smoke in the cockpit. Emergency or not?
I'm going to get fresh air. So we're going to open vents, we're going to open windows, get the smoke out, we're going to troubleshoot. And if it progressively gets worse, I'm obviously going to start heading somewhere to go. We're going to get the airplane down. We're not going to just keep poking along. It's a good question. I think that
I would declare for you.
I would, yeah. I think that was something that you would need to declare because obviously something's smoking. There's a reason you have smoke in the cockpit.
Yeah, emergencies are, you don't have to withhold any information per se. You can share with controllers what you will, and you know, if something needs to be done about it, you know, some controllers are pilots. They'll throw out some suggestions for you, like, hey, there's a field right there, you know. Hey, Mineral Wells is out there off your right wing in about 10 miles.
Yep.
The closest field. Hey, Bridgeport's up that way. There's a tower over there too.
That's the one I was dodging. Yeah.
Yep. And some controllers are pilots, and some controllers are just very, you know, well trained. So they hear those words and they're like, okay, I can help you.
Yeah.
I know exactly how to help you. So
I've heard, you know, a lot of pilots in the community, you read a lot of stuff, people say, well, I just don't want to do the paperwork, or I don't want to get in trouble for declaring an emergency. If it's an emergency to you, then declare it. You know, if you need to declare, declare.
Yep.
And, you know, that's...
you generally
read a lot about that.
Right. No, I do read it and I hear it.
Yeah.
And you generally will not get in trouble for... you will not get in trouble for declaring. Now, you know, some people have listened to the that one American pilot it was on YouTube a long time ago, and he wanted a certain runway, I think it was at JFK, and they said no, and he said, I'm taking that runway or I'm declaring. And they said, well, you can't have it. He said, well, I'm declaring now, move everybody out of the way. Yeah. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know the circumstances of that, you know, and I don't know if the guy got in trouble or not. I really don't care, yeah. But if you're declaring, even if you declaring or not declaring an emergency, not going to put you in trouble at all. Paperwork is going to be the last thing on your mind if you actually, you know, need ATC to help you out one day, or to, you know, roll the trucks essentially. If you're on flight following, like you said, you know, you can just tell ATC then, and they're already talking to you.
You're already talking to somebody.
You're not talking to people, and that's why I encourage flight following, you know, especially when people are going cross country.
Yes.
Alliance Tower, correction, November 1353, wind 180 at 6, visibility 10, 2,200 scattered, ceiling 15,000 broken, 100,000 broken.
Cool. Fixed traffic, Cessna 71 Echo, 9 miles to the west, 2,400 inbound, Hicks. Fixed traffic, Cessna 71 Echoes, 5 miles west, 2,000 inbound over the top 14 Hicks.
That's legit.
Oh look, a train.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be gone. The famous Hicks Landing.
You can always go around.
There's a song about that.
Yes, there is. That's why I just sung it.
Yeah, I've done the train landings before, and it's just, you got the trees, the train, the hangar that's like right here. It just throws everything off. That's the end of it right there.
Yeah, the end of it's past the approach, and so it should be all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right by the time we get there. I just don't like, I mean, I've done it before, but I just don't like it, preferably.
I've landed Dan's 210 with a train, and
yeah, that
was interesting.
Yeah, it definitely gets squirrely. Fixed traffic 71 Echoes, turn to final 14, full stop, Hicks. Looking good on approach.
My hands and feet are clear.
Brian. And clear. Fixed traffic, 71 Echoes clear, 14 Hicks. Well, I enjoyed that, dude. Finally got to get together and get some good time in, do a little talking. And this is strictly our opinions. We just enjoy talking aviation and flying, and we're not instructors. We're not anybody super special. We're just sharing our opinions of aviation. So if you have questions, comments, leave them below. Let us know what you think.
Fly good, fly safe. See you on the next one.